Here I am now at Newport Beach. We'll meet Sean, and then we'll take a factory tour, and we'll give you a lot of information that will educate all of us about electric bikes, how they work, how they run, what to look for, and I think you're going to enjoy this. 7 years ago you started.
Yes, 7 years we started the electric bike company. We actually had a few names before we started the electric bike company, but the electric bike company was incorporated in 2014. We got a unique opportunity to actually own the name, the electric bike company, and that was incorporated in 2014.
The shop that I visited this afternoon, that is your central assembly plant.
Yes.
And then how do you handle the retailing?
So we started going directly to consumers. We thought, let's build the bike exactly the way the customer wants it. So we bring in all the parts from around the world. We inventory the parts. When an order comes in online, the customer gets to choose the frame style, the color of their seats, the color of their trim, and if they want a basket or if they don't want a basket, they choose that online. So they basically virtually build their own bike.
So it's like the Tesla online ordering, where you can go and choose your color, choose your rims, battery capacity.
Yeah, battery capacity. And once that order comes in, then we build it to order.
So of course in the market today, there are literally hundreds of different electric bikes. And I'm guessing that your bike is not trying to be all things to all people. Who are you actually aiming it at?
We looked at all the bikes and we wanted the most classic design, the most comfortable design. There's something that was going to last forever and has been around forever.
Almost a retro look.
Retro, but something that's going to last.
Timeless.
Timeless. That has been proven. And when we looked at a real classic beach cruiser design, it was comfortable, it was functional, and it looked cool. In my opinion, when you go on a bike ride and you want to be comfortable and you want to be cruising, I'm 50 years old. I'm probably past racing mountain bikes or racing bikes. I just thought, what is something that I connect with? And
yes.
That was really like a classic cruiser style bike.
So you use the term beach cruiser, words to that effect.
The best description for it is really it's a cruiser bike. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the beach. It could be around. So just cruising around town, cruising around lakes, cruising around beaches. It's just a classic style bike that looks cool, that's comfortable. It's not about going up and down boulders and off hills or racing down the road. It's just a really comfortable cruiser.
So the demographic is anyone who doesn't want to kill themselves on a bike.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's comfortable, roadworthy, stable, solid, reliable, and safe.
Yes,
okay.
Right.
So the one thing about my Model 3 is that a Tesla is completely unique. What sets your bike apart from probably tens or dozens of other electric bikes that are right out there who are obviously direct competitors in some way?
The uniqueness of ours is, firstly, what we do is we assemble the bike 100% ourselves. And we feel that's important for numerous reasons. Not only can we get to choose and identify and specify exactly which of the components, which of the hardware, which of the parts actually go on the bike, but also the way they get put on the bike. That process is actually quite involved. You can over-torque, over-tighten a bolt, and you can under-tighten it. You forget to put on grease. And there's a lot of ways of actually assembling a bike. We feel that's really important. We specify that every part of the bike, every hardware on the bike is a stainless rust-resistant hardware. Now, we have control over that. The inside of a bike, sort of like the interior part of the bearings.
Right.
You get all quality of bearings that the customer will never see. You will never see this. You'll only know this way down the road. If you're importing bikes or you're getting somebody else to build it, they can cut corners that way. We never want that to happen. We want to be able to specify every one of those things. So we have integrated bearings in our steering, integrated bearings in our bottom bracket, and that's very important for longevity and for safety and reliability in the future. So that, I think, sets us apart for 99% of any other bike seller that sells electric bikes. They can get their bikes built around the world, which is fine, but we control that process. In that process, it allows us to have the experts that are in our shop. Those guys are actually doing it day in and day out, and they are experts in doing what they do. They've got the tools available, they've got the parts available, and they've got the skills. They are the skills to be able to put the bike together. But it also helps us to keep updated with the most updated technology, and in electric bikes, it's changing all the time.
Yeah.
So we don't have to go to a third party and negotiate with them to put on a new alarm system, or to put on a better braking system, or to put on a new bottom bracket that's now improved. We've got that ability to be able to move with the industry. And that not only helps us in the hardware part of the business, but also in the software part of the business and the technology part of the business, which comes along with the battery technology, which is improving sort of every 3 to 6 months. It's helping us with our motor technology to ensure that we have the best, and we not only have the best, but we know how to put the components together, and we know how to support that.
When I was in the shop, you mentioned something unique about the batteries, and you talked about individual fusing.
The nickel plate has been designed in such a way that every cell has a fuse in between it.
Right.
And what that means is if too much current passes through that piece, it's like a fuse in your car or any other equipment, that will then fuse out, and it'll then isolate that cell from the entire battery pack if there's something wrong with that cell. In our 7 years, we've had all kinds of experience with batteries that don't last long, batteries that catch on fire, batteries that do exceptionally well over short periods of time, batteries that don't have the range that they're supposed to have. We need to know every component that goes into the battery. So not only the battery cell itself, and the battery cell, that each cell that's in your battery pack is very important, but also the assembly of that battery pack. So what we did is, over all our learning, we decided, let's buy into a battery pack manufacturing plant. And we have now, Electric Bike Company owns 50% of the North American market of a battery manufacturing company, which allows us not only to design our own battery pack, but also to have, if you want to call it, the interior or the guts of the battery, to know every single part of that battery.
Right.
We only use the top cells. One of the cells is a certified, it's a Samsung 18650, and then this is quite a number that can actually change. It's 29E, which basically means 2900 milliamp. Now we've gone up to a 35E, so that's 3500 milliamp. 18650, meaning, of course, everyone knows that 18 millimeters wide and 65 millimeters long.
Right.
It's a Samsung cell, and the capacity is there. Okay. So we will only use a certified cell in each one of the battery packs.
Right.
So we either use a Panasonic, we use Samsung, or we use an LG cell. So it's a certified quality cell. Now, once we specify that, then we also can specify the BMS, the battery management system, the quality of the battery management system. We can monitor the battery management system, we can test it, and also what we can do, we can replace it. But inside, this is the battery management system, so it's the BMS. So inside here, the battery management system itself has got a temperature sensor, but what we also did, we ran 2 temperature sensors off each side that's internal to the battery pack, that also can measure not only the temperature of the BMS, but also the temperature of each side of the battery pack, which will then relay a level to the BMS, and if it gets too high, the BMS will shut off,
right?
Causing the bike to shut off. But it's better than
than risking the whole battery.
Yeah. Some people call it a battery management system, and some people call it a balancing management system.
Right.
And really, what it is, it just balances every cell. That every cell is discharged at the same rate, and it's that charges to the same rate. Each cell. Without a battery management system, you're just relying really on chemistry to do that.
Right.
Which can happen. But BMS is almost like a checks and balance for your battery. Not only did that give us the ability to be able to see the safety and the performance of our battery, but also the battery pack itself. So it allowed us to put in unique little items like a charger, internal charger that will charge the battery,
right,
with a retractable cord.
So we don't need the wall adapter. And
you don't need to remember to bring your charger with you like you have to do with your computer. You've always got your charger with you. So the nice thing is, it's a retractable cord. You can plug it into any outlet. But we also could put an anti-theft alarm system in there. We have the ability to be able to put in a GPS tracking system.
Right.
We haven't got it yet, but we've got the ability to be able to put that in.
Right.
We can incorporate a integrated back lights, and we can upgrade that light as lighting systems improve, like brake lights and flashing lights, and the flashing option and steady option. So what makes us unique, to answer the question about the uniqueness of us, is being a bike builder, an actual person that can actually build the bike from scratch. It allows the customer to choose how they want their bike to be built, but also they can personalize their bike. They can say, you know what, We really want our frame to be orange, our fenders to be green, and what we can do is we can paint them before we put the bike together. A lot of our competitors, their bikes are already assembled. They then have to disassemble the bike, get the bike decorated, painted or branded, then bring it back. Then they need to put the whole bike together, which they could do. The problem is it's not economically viable for them, for one, and secondly, they don't have the experts to do that properly, because they've got guys marketing and distributing and transporting and warehousing, but they don't have bike builders there. And then an unlimited amount of colors that you can choose.
Wow. And even a unique custom color that the client wants?
Any color, as long as you can send us either the Pantone code, or you can send us a swab of it. And if it's a motor car company that you want us to match, typically what they'll send you is they'll send you a touch-up little bottle of paint. If you send us that, we can 100% match that.
You were talking earlier about going 50% in on an existing battery company. And I couldn't help thinking of a parallel. That's exactly what Tesla and Elon Musk did. They went in 50% with Panasonic. And they created the Gigafactory in which they manufactured on a partnership basis. So effectively, you've taken the same control by buying into the company where you can control the technology.
Exactly. I think there's no other way. It's not as if if Tesla didn't do that, we probably still would have done it. But they're smart. They know that the real thing about an electric vehicle, a car, a bike, a motorbike, a scooter, is really one is the motor and one is the battery. Obviously, Tesla's on a much larger scale, and they're obviously a great job, and they're a very inspiring company to aspire after. If you are going to produce an electric vehicle, one of the key parts is that you're actually producing the battery part of it as well, and you've got control over that. Our business model is also very different to our competitors. We feel the most effective way to get the highest quality product to a customer is to build the bike ourselves according to the customer's needs, then pack it fully assembled, that he doesn't have to deal with any electrical plugs or anything. We pack it fully assembled, and then we ship it anywhere in the world fully assembled. Plus we offer a 30-day 100% money back guarantee, and we pay for the shipping there and back for any reason. So we stand by our product because we're the ones that are making it. So we can go from the factory floor to the customer's door, but also because we're building it, we can customize it. So our business model is very different to anybody else's that's out there.
You're in California. You're in Southern California. So I'm guessing that your biggest market is here. But in addition to that, where else have you sold? How far afield have you gone?
Well, because we actually build it to the customer's order and that comes online, it can come from anywhere in the world. We've gone to Australia. We've gone to Ireland. We've obviously gone to Canada. But we've gone to Hawaii. 95% of our sales are shipped out of our factory. There are people that actually come and pick up their bikes, but 95% are just shipped out.
How have you found the most effective way to get the word out?
Yeah, so we're fortunate in a way that a little bit more, maybe more, less than 50% of our sales is word of mouth. We sell one person a bike, and they get on their bike, they tell their friends do their homework, they come back, they look at the bike and they realize that our bike, we feel, is of course the best. So word of mouth is really good. We also rely on third-party reviews, and we rely on customer reviews that are unsolicited. So the person then can actually legitimately, Trustpilot is one of our reviewers that you actually go on Trustpilot. You can't solicit that review. It's a completely authentic review.
By a customer.
Those are probably the biggest drivers for us: customer reviews and customer feedback and referrals.
As I went through the shop with you today, your staff looked young, keen, eager. Tell me about them.
I must say we are very fortunate. Being interviewed, I sometimes feel a little bit humbled. It's not really me that puts the bikes all together. It's the whole team that makes. I might be the voice behind it, but we've got a phenomenal team. And the real good thing with our team is they believe in the product, they believe in our process, and they've got so much enthusiasm. It's actually quite easy to keep them. They love the product. They actually help make the product better every day. They're passionate as much as I am about the products. They've been with us for a long time. They've been with us since we started. They're growing with the company, and they believe in the product, which makes hiring and retaining staff just that much easier. You sketch on a piece of paper and then you put it into a digital format.
Kind of a CAD drawing.
Yeah, and then basically the finished product is printed out, and then we can kind of test it for form and function. And then we actually try and make a solid piece of the same piece, and then we can go to production. So the latest one was our extension, so we'll just press start. And everything, like this is build material.
Yeah.
And then, so the build material is there, so I can make a 3D model, and then the build material is here. So it can give you a three-dimensional piece. I mean, these things used to be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Now you can buy this Ultimaker 3, so it's a third version of it. This is about $5,000.
So that's the finished product.
This is the finished product. It's a small little spacer that we use for our battery, and we're testing out, and that's what gets.
So that is being built into an 8-inch long device like that.
That's right.
And the floor is continually lowering.
That's right.
Wow.
And it makes it with the holes in it.
So this police cruiser is a concept at the moment, but it has both a battery at the back, and then it has battery modules up at the front here, and those are connected together, which would allow the police cruiser to be able to be used all day without having to recharge. But it is only a concept at present. Is this area like a final product check? And
I'm actually one of the builders, so I'm building a bicycle, same as Alex. From this area, it'll go to the other side of the shop where Josh primarily does the final safety inspection. Jack is, of course, also qualified to do that since he's the lead in this area.
Yes.
And yeah, that's the process. So I'll build it, and they'll finalize everything there for us.
So what we have here, so from the basic frame, this top tube here, funny enough, is called the top tube. So the top tube, we either have the classic style, which is the straight style, or the top tube comes down for the step through style.
Right.
The next tube over here is bottom tube. So this is the bottom tube. The front part here is called the headset. This is the headset, so that's what's unique with us. It's a modified headset. We've taken a existing headset that's been done for millions or hundreds of years, and we've modified to add our bracket on here.
Right.
And we've made this nice and smooth so that we can add a basket to our headset. This here's the fork, the bicycle fork. If we come down over here, this is a crank. This piece over here is the crank. This is a chain ring. And what attaches the crank and the chainring to the frame is called the bottom bracket.
Okay.
This tube coming up over here is C2. And then you've got your stays. They're called stays. This comes from the seat tube down to the bottom of the dropout. This is the rear dropout over here. So this is called the seat stay. From the seat down to here is a seat stay. And then this coming across here is from the bottom bracket to the dropout over here. This is with the chain, so where the chain goes, so this is a chain stay.
Okay.
And then this is a back dropout, which is just this part over here where the wheel pops in, and then the front dropout. So those are the real main parts of the frame. So basically what happens in the machine,
Okay.
well then we'll build the machine, we'll tighten the spokes, and then this machine over here will then true the machine closer than the human eye can actually do it.
When you say true, what exactly is it doing?
Making it exactly straight, so level, straight, balanced, so that each of the spokes are perfectly tightened to the tension that we would like to have them. And that's really important for longevity of a wheel. If the spokes are perfectly true and tightened and running level, the bike not only tracks well, but also the spokes don't get loose and corrode and snap eventually. This is a very important
So what is
part.
it physically doing? Those two arms that come in from each side, what are they actually doing?
Jack can actually run through that with you.
Yeah, so they just come in, and what they're doing is acting like a spoke wrench. And each of those arms is essentially one of these tools. And that is coming from the side onto the spoke and tightening it to the correct tension. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what's in those arms. And as you tighten one side and loosen the other side, the rim will come one way or the other way.
Yes.
And if you tighten all of them in one side and loosen on the other side, the rim's going to shift vertically.
Right.
Jack, you know this better than I do, but so these levers over here, you bring them closer and forward, and then what you can do is see to make sure when you run, to make sure that it is actually true.
Oh, it's not bumping into the little
so it's not
notch
like-
over there and
it's
then
not-
coming away.
That's right.
So it's just a validation through visual means. that it's-
So having a double-walled rim is actually really important for a couple reasons. Firstly, of course, it's much stronger. It's more than double the strength once you've got two walls. But also what it helps is it helps to have these holes so that the nipple, that when it goes down in there, that if it ever gets a bit loose or has a rough edge,
Right.
it's not going to puncture your tube that's on top there.
Okay.
So we not only then put a strip on top to protect it, but then the tube, of course, goes in there. But because of the double walled, it actually protects that. You can tighten the spokes a lot tighter because the rim is stronger.
Yes.
Which means that your wheel is going to stay in true
For longer.
a lot longer and handle a lot more terrain. And wear and tear. Then the spoke itself is also a really key item. It's not only how the spoke is manufactured, but also the threads and how that those threads are then put on to marry up with the nipple. Jack, do we have a spare nipple lying around? This item, just the spoke itself, is actually a business, the whole business in itself. So how the spoke is actually made,
Right.
how this angle is set, the thickness of the spoke. So obviously the thicker the spoke, the stronger it is.
Yes.
And then also the material of the spoke. What type of material? Many spokes are just made out of just regular material which corrodes, rusts, and doesn't take on the tension that it should and the
Right.
buckling. But also when you do thread it, it's important that the nipple, there's also a construction item in the nipple itself. So when you do actually thread the spoke into the nipple, that it actually threads tight enough and that there's no play within that thread, and that
Right.
it threads down far enough that it actually can grab and hold that tension.
So the nipples are never tightened to the full extent of the threads. They're tightened to make each spoke have the same distance and the same tension.
Exactly. And then what you don't want is you don't want to go all the way down too much so that the spoke actually comes out of the end of the nipple.
Yes.
And if you really had that, if you didn't know what you were doing, what this could do, the nipple could start moving all the way down the spoke. The spoke then would pop out and then puncture your tire,
Yeah.
and then obviously
Yeah.
cause a problem. So all these small details in a wheel building exercise, this is actually a brass nipple
Right.
and a stainless rust-resistant spoke,
Okay.
and the thickness and the length of the spoke. So all this in building a perfect wheel is obviously a science.
So it'll give the wheel a longer time between servicing
That's
requirements.
Right. That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the stem. This is
And
the,
it looks pretty adjustable. How many ways does it adjust?
Exactly. 3 ways it can adjust. It can adjust height-wise, so up and down.
Right.
Then it's got another adjustment over here that can bring it forward or backwards.
Okay.
And there's another 4 bolts over here, which means the handlebars can either go depending on how your comfort level, if you want to.
Oh, you can rotate them up or down.
That's right.
Okay.
So it can. The whole reason we made the bike this way and used this frame design is because it can accommodate riders from as low as 5 foot tall all the way up to 7 foot tall. And then you also have the adjustments in the back. So the seat can go all the way down and all the way up. It can also slide. It's got rails over here. It can slide on these rails forward and backwards. And then it's also got another adjustment where it can tilt up and down.
Right.
So it's got 3 different adjustments here, and then 3 in the front. Typically on a bicycle frame, a regular bicycle frame, the thickness of the frame is about 1 millimeter, just between 1 millimeter and 1.5 millimeters. What we decided to do to keep the frame, we wanted to make the frame classic and look like a bicycle, but because it's an electric bike, it's heavier. It goes at higher speeds often, and it gets used more often with a lot more cargo. So we made it look like a bicycle frame, but really more like a motorbike frame. And we increased the thickness to close to 3 millimeters thick.
Almost double.
Almost double. So, and that includes all the stays, the seat stay and the chain stay. And we made sure that everything was thicker. We made the headset stronger. We made the brackets thicker. The frame is really more for a motorbike style strength, but still can be ridden like a bicycle. These are integrated bearings, so the bearings are not exposed.
Right.
Now, when you have the chainring on top here and you have everything else, nobody gets to see these details. But this is really important for us because over time, grime and grit and everything can get inside there, and it's important. And it's the same for the headset too.
I do see this as the Tesla of electric bikes. And a few reasons for that include Sean, his passion, his obsession with detail, his determination to build a quality bike, not to import a cheap bike. And in building a quality bike, to assemble a team of people around him, and he calls them experts, and I can see that they are. I was just impressed by the dedication that he had. You know, I know that many people don't like the idea of an electric bike. It's not a proper bike. But for those of us that enjoy driving a bike, cruising around, pedaling, getting some exercise, but also just enjoying being taken up the hills. Listen, if you love a Model 3, if you love Tesla, you're going to love riding an electric bike. So with that, we've come to the end of another episode. I really do hope that you thoroughly enjoyed this episode, which is quite a departure from Model 3 musings. Do look this up, go to their website, check it out. Thank you for watching through to the end. Please, again, if you would like to support the channel, there's a very simple way. Use my referral code when you order a Tesla. Doesn't matter which Tesla you order. Model Y doesn't count because it isn't available yet, but if you just use my code, it helps me. You get 1,500 kilometers in Canada or 1,000 miles of free supercharging, and I get the same on my end. Next time is the long promised episode on audio. So thanks again. See you next time.